If you were a kid in the 70s, 80s, 90s, or 2000s, McDonald's might have played a significant part in your childhood. And while getting a Happy Meal and a toy was always fun, and the food tasted pretty good, what also played into this nostalgia was the environment. Seeing that colorful beige building with a red roof, and the inside of the restaurant was equally as exciting. You might have played in the playplace or the ball pit, or for those who are older, you might have played in this playground. But today though, the McDonald's experience is very different. It's very dark, colorless, minimal. It feels like the inside of an Apple store or a Starbucks. So why did McDonald's make this shift from having a very fun environment to something that looks a lot duller? Well, I looked into it and here's why. At the very beginning, McDonald's locations throughout the country for the most part looked like this. Two golden arches would go over the building that was painted white. Entering into the 60s, McDonald's locations would start looking a little more pristine, including in the early 70s they would get the very woodsy 70s look that you can see in a lot of restaurants. Some of these designs kind of resemble McDonald's locations you'd see today, but in 1971, the company wanted to focus more on getting the attention of children and families again, so they started a new campaign called McDonald Land. This would introduce a slew of new characters, including Grimace, Mayor McCheese, and the Hamburglar, just to name a few. This coinciding with a television show and many commercials. Some of them are nightmare fuel, would help kids associate the characters with the McDonald's brand and the restaurants. Speaking of, like I mentioned earlier, during the 60s and early 70s, the locations looked pretty monotone for the time, moving on from those 50 mega arches and moving into something a little more modern. The buildings did retain their man-scarred design of architecture, and the color palettes found inside were usually browns, oranges, and yellows. But during McDonald Land throughout the 70s, they started adding more charm to the locations. At the 1972 Illinois State Fair, McDonald's would make a 4,800 square foot playground featuring the McDonald Land characters as just another promotional thing, and after just 10 days, over 350,000 kids were playing on this playground. And that's when McDonald's realized they had to add this to their restaurants. They introduced the very first playplace to a McDonald's location in Chula Vista, California. And after witnessing the success of that playplace, they started adding them all throughout the country. The playgrounds were outside, and they contained your typical playground stuff. These leaning things, a merry-go-round, and of course McDonald's IP. The success of the playplace would continue on into the 80s, and McDonald's would continue adding fun little details to all of their buildings. By the late 80s to early 90s, many locations started having the iconic design for safety purposes and maintenance purposes. Playplace locations started being designed to be indoors, and their main focus really was just like the slides that you can climb into and all the tubes and stuff. And there still were some ball pits. In 1991, McDonald's also joined a new venture, creating just indoor playgrounds. This franchise would be called Leaps and Bounds, but unfortunately for McDonald's, the locations weren't successful, and in 1995 they would close their doors. Their competitor, Discovery Zone, another indoor playground company, would acquire Leaps and Bounds. In the late 90s, McDonald's faced even more problems in relation to their playgrounds. You might remember seeing these things, and I'm not gonna lie, for the longest time I thought this was just like decoration. I couldn't imagine that this was something that kids would actually get into. Oh no. These are Big Mac climbers. It's basically a jungle gym. You can climb into it, and it's fully made of metal. The CPSC, Consumer Product Safety Commission, did not like these, as many children were getting injured on them because, you know, it's two metal buns and it has metal bars, and the Commission General at the time, Jeff Brom, said that the gaps in the ladders were big enough for kids to fall through. So in 1997, McDonald's removed all 190 Big Mac climbers, but the lawsuits didn't stop there. As it turns out, the CPSC discovered that McDonald's had failed to report hundreds of children. It was found that between 1986 and 1991, over 1,500 injury complaints were filed against McDonald's. And then people were also complaining about this thing, the tug and turn, so McDonald's removed them, and then in 1999, the CPSC was like, not so fast. Apparently, McDonald's failed to report hundreds of children who have suffered injuries playing on the Big Mac climbers, and it says that over 400 children were hurt playing on this equipment. So McDonald's was fined $4 million. On top of that, sanitary concerns were arising about the ball pit, not just at McDonald's, just in general. But then something started happening in the 2010s. McDonald's started changing its architecture. An entirely new campaign campaign was started, which was now appealing to young adults. Locations all throughout the country started getting these brick designs with a yellow line over the top of the building. I guess that's the best way to describe it. And then later into the decade, locations started looking like this, basically starting to mimic Starbucks, and even Taco Bell took this design. One of the reasons for this was that McDonald's was trying to also look like a cafe place, so from that standpoint, it makes sense because this looks more like a cafe place, but this is McDonald's. Even though it obviously worked, because people can still recognize this thing, these locations look so dull and boring. It doesn't really seem like a happy place to go to. The only thing that it has left is its branding and its food recipe. But as a child, there's nothing really to take away from this besides just sitting down and opening your Happy Meal. Even with the events of 2020, there are still locations that have play places, but McDonald's is obviously trying to move away from that. And it's pretty understandable why, because of all of the lawsuits and stuff, as well as having to maintain and keep it clean and all that. But I do think that it's very dangerous to walk away from what made you iconic and nostalgic from the beginning. Only time will tell in the future if McDonald's is able to still be the company that it was when it had all these amenities, or if McDonald's is just going to be another burger place, just like Jack in the Box and Culver's and all that, because if you're going to get rid of Ronald McDonald, you really are just a logo, just like everyone else.